Welcome back to Montessori Mindset, where we explore education through the lens of the whole child, mind, body, and spirit. Today, I am delighted to welcome Mary McElroy. Did I pronounce that right? I should have asked ahead of
Yes,
time.
McElroy. Yes, thank
McElroy,
you.
yes. Okay. Who has recently stepped into a new leadership role at the National Catholic Educational Association, an organization that has long been at the center of supporting and advancing Catholic education across the United States. Mary brings a wealth of experience in Catholic education, and her work now has the opportunity to shape conversations, support schools, and strengthen communities nationwide. In today's episode, we'll talk about her journey into this role, what excites her most about this next chapter, and how NCEA is continuing to serve schools, educators, and families in a rapidly changing educational landscape. Congratulations, Mary, and welcome to the podcast. How are you doing today?
Oh, great, Melissa. Thank you so much for inviting me. It's
Yeah.
really an honor to meet you and such a pleasure to be here.
Oh, I'm so excited about this. I've been excited for a couple weeks now. Um, and I'm happy to have you. So, can you tell everybody a little bit about your background and what led you to this position at the National Catholic Educational Association?
Sure. It's a bit of a story, but to break it down to the treetops, I've always been interested in education, and I'm a product of Catholic education. I'm one of five children, and my dad worked extra hours. In his job, he'd go out, and do all the overtime he could get, and he would say to us, "That's the shoe money." And we'd be like, "What do you mean, Dad, shoe money?" And he would say, "Well, that's the money for your uniform, shoes, and all the other things that went along with going to a Catholic school, choosing a Catholic school." So I grew up with that example. Was happy to have attended Catholic schools myself and wanted Catholic schools for my own children. What I did after college, I had been drawn into the law, so I went to law school, but I had been an education major and, went into private practice for a few years, but still that pull of education was there. And I actually, when my two oldest were little, I took a job as teacher, back to my education roots, and I taught kindergarten and first grade in our local parish school. And then, life continues, and an advocacy position came available in our local Archdiocese of Newark, as I live in New Jersey. And that was wonderful because it allowed me to combine the law background with the practical experience of Catholic education. And in that position, I've been there at the Archdiocese of Newark for 25 years and have had other educational components along the way, administratively supporting and working with elementary school principals, high school principals, working on the government programs that really impact our schools and making sure that our schools have what they need so they can continue to thrive. So it's been a bit of a journey, but I'm really happy and grateful that I've wound up in Catholic education.
I love that. I think that what you're doing and what you're embarking on is so important. Recently, I had a nice conversation with the Cardinal Newman Society, and
Oh,
one of the things that we were talking about was how important our policies need to reflect our Catholic identity. And as an independent school, one of the things that I always found really tricky was navigating all of the laws and making sure that our policies are fitting within the different nuances. And it's really important, I think, for schools to have that. What you're talking about is that support so that we can continue to be Catholic, but also continue moving forward legally, right? And
yeah.
in navigating the political and the legal environment. So yeah, and the amount of liability that we hold in these positions for so many reasons. It makes it hard and challenging at times. So your role helping schools navigate that is just so huge. So NCEA though, can you talk specifically what their role is in supporting schools on the ground, both the administrators and the teachers?
Sure. So NCEA is the oldest and largest professional education association in the country. And it's one that parents don't really hear much about. It has 100 almost 140,000 educators as members that serve 1.6 million students throughout the country. So
Wow.
the NCEA is the voice, really, and has been the voice for Catholic education in the United States. So what the NCEA does is their tagline is everybody has a tagline. So their tagline is lead, learn, and proclaim. And in a nutshell, that's what they do. They lead Catholic education. They're always inviting educators to learn more about their mission, their craft, and they're unabashedly proclaiming the value of Catholic education in our world, especially in our world as it is today. So to be involved with the NCEA is a blessing because the NCEA is a resource. There's an understanding that, they say all politics is local, but all education is local too. And to have an organization that really can look at education writ large across the country and then be able to synthesize it for what's happening in different parts of the country, recognizing what's the same, celebrating what's different, encouraging everyone in that mission, and always bringing us forward to where we can go to serve our students and families.
That's important. That is so important. I've got so many questions, follow-up questions.
Okay, sure.
Yeah. So I'm wondering, because we probably will cover this through the questions that I have prepared, but it's just okay. So I just read how this year we had brought in this Easter, we brought in 38% more Catholics into the fold. And oh, I got goosebumps. I mean, this is
Yeah.
so exciting nationwide.
Mhm.
And so are we seeing an uptick? Because you mentioned how many students your teaching membership is representing. Are we going to see, or have we seen an uptick yet?
I would say yes, there is an uptick, but it's not an even uptick.
Okay.
It's it's in different parts of the country.
Okay.
I think, where you're seeing a resurgence of Catholicism, and that's really been a headline, how, younger people especially are awakening to the Catholic Church and because they're searching, they're looking for something. And it's thrilling and exciting and goosebump worthy that they're finding that in the Catholic Church. So we want to celebrate that, and yes, I think the hope and the expectation is that the need for additional Catholic schools will go from there.
So, for those who may not be familiar, how would you describe the mission impact of NCEA today?
Impact is to be a resource.
Okay.
There are so many different things competing for our time. And as a principal, you see that. Your email box is overflowing. Everyone is, looking for you to spend money that you don't necessarily have on the latest, greatest thing, in addition to all the parent things and all the things of running a school. So NCEA has really made, I think, a conscious effort to marshal resources, to see what's out there, and to be able to connect educators with resources that can help them. So they act as a clearinghouse in a lot of ways for those kinds of things, and also to be a reliable voice that people can go to for assistance. So, for example, Sister Dale McDonald is the Vice President of Public Policy, and she has had a 30-year career at NCEA. And Sister is just a walking font of information, a treasure of public policy.
Wow.
And to talk to Sister Dale, all you need to do is shoot her an email or pick up the phone and call her. And I have done that a number of times myself in my work previously. And Sister is a fabulous resource and can cut through some of the rhetoric that you might be hearing, can really narrow in on what a particular piece of legislation means for your experience in your Catholic school. And that's invaluable.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. No, it really is. Um, so you've got Sister, and what about like professional development? Is that part of the resources, or
Yes, definitely. Very robust professional development. You just need to go onto the website, which is www.ncea.org,
okay.
and you'll see for educators, there's a wealth of resources. There are webinars. There are things that are on demand. So if it's something that maybe you missed or you hadn't been thinking about it at that point, now it's come to your attention, that's something you need to deal with, you can find a webinar on that topic. There are conferences that are held. They just finished the big convention. That's Easter week every year. It was out in Minneapolis. Next year it's Indianapolis. And, there are live things that people can go to throughout the year. There's the big convention. There are webinars. There's a blog. There's a podcast. There are so many things that really are designed to meet busy educators where they are.
That's amazing. And so can you talk a little bit about, going into this position, what are some of the key priorities that you want to bring to the position, or what do you see on the horizon as far as some of the initiatives that you'd like to tackle?
There's a lot of excitement about the federal scholarship tax credit. It's
I was
the
going to ask you
Education
about it.
Freedom Tax Credit.
Yes.
So much buzz about that. That I am super excited about. It passed last year as part of the big beautiful bill, and what it does is it frees up scholarship money through tax credits. Anyone, regular people, not corporations, but individuals can make a donation to a scholarship organization, and they get a tax credit, which is better. And I'm no accountant, but a tax credit's always better than a deduction. And we're getting, we're at the cusp of tax time. So that resonates with people, that a tax credit's a good thing. And then scholarship organizations can give out more scholarships. We have scholarship organizations across the country that are working hard to really make Catholic education available for families. And this is a shot in the arm. This would help them tremendously.
So wait, just to clarify real quickly, NCEA has the scholarship organizations across the country?
No, NCEA is a voice in this discussion. The scholarship organizations are all your various organizations that exist. Many dioceses will have already a scholarship
that's good to
fund
know. Okay.
that they've set up, just over time to help families be able to choose Catholic education. So that's what I mean when I say a scholarship organization.
Okay.
I'm sure there are many in DC, probably the Archdiocese of Washington would have. I know the other dioceses do across the country as well. And then there are other groups that can start a scholarship organization, but the scholarships would flow through a scholarship organization so that, it's not the Wild West. So it's a group that knows they have to meet criteria. They know what they're doing. This is what they do, grant scholarships, and they make sure that they're done appropriately and as they should be. So that's why we say scholarship organization. But the trick is that every governor needs to opt in to this program. It's not state money, it's federal money. So if a state doesn't opt into it, they're really leaving money on the table, in a sense, that could help the people in their states. So what we're talking about now, and NCEA is a voice in this, trying to assist states to talk to their governors, to educate their families about how important this tax credit scholarship is. It's the Education Freedom Tax Credit, or EFTC. It's had a few different names, but this is the one that seems to be sticking. It's EFTC. So there's going to be a lot more that's coming out about it. It's not in effect right now. What's happening right now is that the Treasury Department is working on what regulations will be for this program, talking about the scholarship organizations and how the money is to flow and things like that. And then the program itself is to launch January 1st, 2027. So it's coming, and it's exciting, and it will give tremendous opportunities to families to choose Catholic education and for schools to really get their message out there. So that's something we're super, super excited about. And then continuing the work of the NCEA. NCEA has always been involved in, trying to make special education accessible. That's a whole another area that, really always needs, care and attention, and really making inclusivity in practice, not just in words. And what does that look like? We want to be inclusive. We want to welcome all. Jesus says, welcome all the children. We want to do that professionally and effectively and compassionately, because we serve families, right? This is all about serving families.
Absolutely.
That's why we exist.
I talk about that a lot, is just recognizing the dignity of every child.
Yes.
Every human, and a child is just a shorter version of human, right? That is developing and growing. And so what does that look like from, the top end over there, up here? Because you're kind of at the top here, trickling down all this information to all of these Catholic schools across the nation. So what does that look like as far as supporting the teachers on the ground who want to and who feel compelled to be there for every child? What does that look like?
I think it begins with everyone, especially people who work in policy. Policy can be a little bit theoretical, and sometimes it can be in a vacuum. But to always remember that we're talking about students, we're talking about young children, we're talking about high school seniors and everything in between, and the families who love them and support them, and the educators who are working tirelessly to really, impart Catholic education in their school communities. So to keep that in mind, that it's the whole child we're talking about, it's families we're talking about, and to use that lens to say, well, we have policy, and policy can sometimes be up here in the clouds sometimes, and it's, jargon, and it's not easy to decipher, but to look at that through this lens of how will it help a student? How will this policy allow a teacher to do what the teacher needs to do? And if we look at it through that lens, we can take the what's up here and we can distill it. Because a principal says, I have 6 million things that I have to do before 3 p.m. today. What does this mean about the title programs? A district called me and said, oh, you have some money in Title II and you have to spend it. And the principal might say, if I'm being really honest, I don't remember what Title II is, and realizing that. Or how does Title I work again? Is what the person from the district who's very sincere, is what they're telling me actually how it works? I'm not sure, and maybe they weren't 100% sure either. But to look at it in that way, that what this is all about is empowering families and educators to really be their best in Catholic education, and to always look at it that way. How will this help our mission?
So when you're talking about titles 1 through 4, real quickly, are you seeing any changes moving forward? Because I know that there's like a lot of changes happening at the federal level. So how is that going to, if it's going to affect the, the different schools at the ground level?
Those programs have been around, many of them, since really the Johnson administration.
Yeah.
And the schools do rely on them because they can be helpful. And yes, we have seen changes. You have the whole U.S. Department of Education, which is really being dismantled, and functions of it are being shifted to other departments. And the states will have more responsibility for administering them. There was some, kerfuffle in the summer about would these programs be funded, and then at the last minute they were, but not necessarily to the level that we had hoped. So there will always, I think, sadly, be variations in funding.
Okay.
However, where I think we're going now is NCEA and groups like us can help educators and principals in particular be able to talk to their districts and really folks at the state level about these federal programs. They're federal programs, they'll always be federal programs, but to maybe know a little bit more about them than they have in the past, so they can then really advocate and say to the district and say to, going up the chain on the state level, so the folks that will have to administer these programs now, maybe a little bit more intentionally than they had to in the past, to be able to explain to them what it means for their school. Not that a principal has to be an expert on federal title programs. That's not what I'm saying at all, but to know what it means for your school. So when we talk about Title II, which is professional development, for a principal to say, when I look at my students, I'm seeing that maybe we could do a little bit more in math. Maybe we need to do something more with like analytical reasoning and mathematical reasoning. And I talk to my teachers about that. And then we come up with, what we think would be a really good, professional development program. They're out there. You don't have to make it up or reinvent the wheel. And then to be able to say to the district, with our Title II money, this is what we need for our school. It's great that the district is doing, something else perhaps. Maybe they're working on close reading, but we need to work on this particular aspect of math because our students need it. And we know that because we are their educators. And so, in other words, to be able to have a clear voice that's relative to what which is your students.
No, I think that when we get our numbers at the beginning of each budget cycle, there are so many things we would like to do, and we have to, as a board and myself, we kind of have to figure out, okay, we have to prioritize. Figure out what's going to do
needs versus wants.
It's a process. It's a process. If only. And actually, I was in a meeting last month, and I said, I actually don't need all that much. I just need like a little bit, and I can make magic out of it.
That's the Catholic school way, right? We do so much with so little.
I do so much. We're just falling slightly short. And but yeah, it was Father Nick over at the Catholic Montessori Institute. We were laughing about that. And it was so sweet. But yeah, I think that like that's really great that you're able to, because I can say from personal experience with the board and myself, we don't always necessarily know, it's not clear. There is so many ways that we could use that money. And so bouncing off with an organization such as the NCEA, who has all, as you said, over 30 years of experience and really being able to synthesize all the different things and figuring out a path, or at least got some kind of guidance on a path
Right.
forward to make sure that we're recognizing all of our weaknesses and where we can like bolster so that we can support the most students. It is, and each year, the students we get, there's always, it all changes. It's like an amoeba a little bit.
Yes, yes, right. Every year is different. Themes remain the same, but students are different,
Oh
families are
yeah.
different.
And the
And really,
teachers
I think
too. The teachers, they come in with a lot of strengths and we want to lean into those strengths, but they also
yes,
want to support the things that they need and feel and want more support in. And we want to support them as well, on the front lines of everything.
absolutely, to help them be the best they can be. But I
Yeah.
think the most important takeaway with the NCEA is for people to know that they're not alone. You're not alone. I mean, it feels that way, I'm sure, especially when you're the principal and everyone is asking you, well, what do you think? What should we do? Oh no, you're on hold. What do we do? Do we come back? Do we stay? You know? And then it's up to you to make those decisions, and you have to make them in the moment
Yeah.
many times.
Yeah.
But to know that you're not alone. And for an educator, for a teacher in their classroom to be able to say, oh, I can go out and get some help on something. I'm not sure maybe how to manage a behavior or what the best way to present a particular topic would be for my class because of A, B, C, and D.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
that's really part of just always growing and moving forward.
So I'm wondering, so we talked a little bit about supporting families through the federal grant money, and we talked about um, the dignity of the children and making sure that we're meeting all of their needs. Are you also looking at innovation moving forward? Because I know for me, I'm getting a lot of questions on AI, but that's not the
Mhm.
only innovative thing that's going on. There's other things. Are you looking at some of the innovations moving forward and how that's going to trickle down into the Catholic schools on the ground?
Yes, absolutely. AI has exploded, and there are many different takes on it. You have some people who say, oh no, we shouldn't do anything with AI. It's terrible. And others who are saying, open the floodgates, all AI all the time. And AI at its core is a tool, just
Mhm.
like computers are a tool, just like the calculator before that was a tool, as was the abacus, right? All these things are tools to advance the mission of education. So we can't be afraid of them. We need to always keep our values and keep true to who we are, but then to see how these things can help us in our mission. So yes, the NCEA is working with folks in AI, preparing and presenting um, webinars and sessions on AI, looking at resources that can help schools manage AI. So certainly, the NCEA doesn't ignore anything. It's like, what is happening? Where are the innovations? How can we maximize them? Always remembering why and
Yeah, no, I love that.
and the mission.
One of the things that I have noticed from some of the other schools when the children come into our school is so back with COVID, there was a big shift. It was already kind of starting to happen, but with COVID, it went really quickly over to everything on screens, right? And then when they all went back into the classroom, they shifted slightly back to away from screens, but really they kept a lot of the components and platforms moving forward. I would say for the next 4 years or so, and then AI within the last year or 2 years has really kind of grown and it's caught on like fire. And so, what I've been noticing in the last couple of months regarding AI is this move away from the screens entirely, which is a little bit of
Right.
a knee jerk reaction. And so, are you seeing any of that yourself? I mean, I'm just from like this is more anecdotal
Mhm.
than anything, but are you seeing anything like that?
Yes, I can say that certainly where I am now in my own diocese, I've seen that in talking with principals, they're saying things like, we want to go back a little bit more to pen and paper.
Yeah.
In colleges, back in the day, you had a blue book and you had to write your essays in that.
Yeah, I
Sales
remember.
of blue books have, all of a sudden increased
They
because
reappeared.
because teachers are looking at how can they assess
Hmm.
and really know that a student has mastered, the material. And there are all different ways to measure assessment. Certainly in the Montessori model, you're very in tune with
Hmm.
the idea of the child leading and the child growing, and how is the child, you know, taking in this information, and how are they making it a part of themselves. So, AI might help in terms of imparting information in certain aspects, but it's always the job of the teacher to make sure that that's internalized and it's
Yeah.
understood. And then the child is able to show growth in that and facility with what the concepts are. So I would say, yes, anecdotally, I am seeing the sense of, you know, that pen and paper is good. Conversations are good.
Yes.
Questioning and response and dialogue, they're all keys to understanding.
Yeah. So I'm glad you mentioned about the Montessori. I was going to ask, in your membership, do you have Montessori teachers or Montessori schools in your membership?
In the NCEA, yes,
Okay.
but I don't know how many there
Okay.
are because I haven't gotten into that yet. Um, I've seen, certainly familiar with the Montessori model,
Mhm.
but I'm excited about Catholic Montessori because I think Dr. Maria Montessori's work really lends itself, that idea of the whole child and moving at your pace,
Mhm.
that really dovetails so beautifully
Yeah.
with the Catholic idea of we look at the whole child made in the image and likeness of God, you know?
Absolutely. Oh, thank you. Thank you for saying my words for me. Because that's been like, that's all part of why I'm doing the podcast, is because there is that big misunderstanding. There are some people who have taken Dr. Montessori's work and have hijacked it to mean something else.
So,
And so the Catholic Montessori Institute, it's 2 years old now, and they're trying to like reclaim what Montessori work is and what she stood for and what she presented to the
good.
world, which is, like you said, very much in God's image of child and of humans, and that's what it is. And she does it beautifully, and she says it so eloquently. Like a lot of the work that she had created back at the early 1900s have been rewritten by people to take out all of her words, which included God, Jesus,
Mhm.
Saint
Well,
Francis, and they just
so,
crossed it all out. And so she was very Catholic, and and it's very clear in her writing. And so, yes, as you said, you're excited about Catholic Montessori. Me too.
great.
So I'm glad to hear that. So that's good to know as well, so that our Catholic Montessori schools are welcome to be part of the membership and participate. That's good to hear. And I also wanted to ask you from the
Excuse me. Mhm.
it's okay. So from the parent perspective, how can the parents participate in NCEA?
I think looking on the website to see if there are resources. But yes, being aware that this organization exists and that it's ultimately to support them because it's supporting the people that will help their children.
Oh, I love that. Well, is there anything that I missed, or is there anything that you want to introduce?
I think what I'd like to leave everyone with is the idea that NCEA exists as a help, as a resource, and it's as it should. It's constantly evolving and growing. I don't think that we as Catholic educators should be afraid of public policy things in particular, because that's the area that I'll be working in. I think that as we have this resurgence in Catholicism, and people aren't afraid to talk anymore about being Catholic. Oh, excuse me. That's something that is really to be proud of, and that we should say, yes, Catholic education is a gift, and it's a wonderful thing, and we celebrate it and we advance it, because that's part of our mission of being fully formed in the image and likeness of God.
Thank you. That is so beautiful. I um so thank you so much, Mary. I think you said that beautifully. I think that that's why we're all here, is so that we can honor and bring the children on their own journeys with Jesus, and in God's love and in His mercy. And Mary, thank you so much for joining us today and for sharing your vision and heart for Catholic education. It's clear that this moment brings us both challenges and opportunity, for sure, but also a renewed sense of purpose in how to serve children and families. For our listeners, I hope this conversation gives you a deeper understanding of the work being done at the national level through NCEA and how it connects to your own school communities. Thank you again, Mary, for being here. And to our listeners, if you found this conversation helpful, be sure to subscribe, share it with fellow parent or educator, and explore more episodes of Montessori Mindset. Until next time, keep nurturing the whole child.
Thank you.
Thank you.